Salute. The streets are buzzing. Welcome in to tonight's stream. We break down the most important New York Knicks heading into a season, man, full of optimism, full of excitement. Let's get ready to preview the first preseason game. Tomorrow it goes down, man. Noon Eastern time. We'll be live post game, but later in the evening, man, prime time once everyone gets off work. But Q&A with the chat tonight, man, on the eve of preseason. We're excited, we're hyped. We have the latest news coming out of camp in Abu Dhabi. You see some great training footage, ball movement, the ball is flowing, man. And the conversation is going to be flowing tonight, man. Join the conversation in the live chat. Give us your questions, your thoughts, comments. We shout it out. Ladies and gentlemen, Knicks family, we here. We've got the streets buzzing. And tonight's stream is all about looking at individuals as this whole squad comes together, right? We don't make it about individuals usually. It's about the team. But there's a lot of players, man, and a lot of new players coming in, second-year players, some young players as well, and some OGs. And we want to take a look at our ranking, man, of most important players, you know. So a little quick snippet, a preview, fam. We'll be going through, and I want you to join the conversation as well. This is going to be about input because, look, every player is important, and I'm going to preface this when we get into it in a minute. But every player is important to win a ball game. Players can have their hot nights. Players can go on a huge streak. And players can go up and down in form. But most important players to help the Knicks get to that championship this season, man. We'll be ranking them, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the building. What's up, Marty L, Daniel Berry, everyone coming through. We've got some great questions already coming through the chat, man, and I will star some of them and hit on as many as possible. But first and foremost, right, obviously some latest news, not a whole much that's new relating to the Knicks in terms of what we're going to expect tomorrow, right? I think the starters, as you see, man, in the blue, we'll have obviously the four regular starters. Mitch is in the grey there, right, with Yabu, and with Deuce McBride, as you see in the grey. So it does look like Mike Brown's mixing it up. You know, obviously Mitch will play with the bench some, but I think he'll get the first opportunity to start. That's my read on the situation. Things are fluid and things can change, obviously, in a minute. But yeah, my early read is that Mitch is going to start, but he's in the grey in a lot of the training footage and the graphics that have come out today. So let us know how you feel. Demario, salute. Creative Lou, salute. We're going to have a nice party in Abu Dhabi, says Demario. The players, yeah, they've been taking in the sites, the customs, and all of that. I do know the game is on NBA TV tomorrow as well, but if you can't make it, man, most people are going to be on their grind, you know, at work, obviously with a noon tip, right? I'll be half asleep, right? Be tuning in, obviously, but I won't be post-game until probably 5, 6 p.m. tomorrow, and we'll do the post-game then. We'll have a bit of time to break it all down, the highlights. We'll give out some grades as well. And yeah, can just continue to talk about preseason and what's up next. We had Monica McNutt earlier today on ESPN, you know, closely tapped in, locked in with the team at MSG and ESPN. Monica says she's just she can't wait to see what Mike Brown's system looks like. Honestly, man, if the footages and the talk is what we've been hearing, man, there's a lot of excitement in the air, right? Steve Popper and Stefan Bondi have been on the ground giving us some great footage and some news coming out. Also, James L. Edwards, we're going to talk about that next. Is that obviously the trade talks continue, the trade rumors, you know, for the Knicks to clear a space. Malcolm Brogdon gave a great interview, and he spoke about the expectation is that he's going to be a key piece on the bench and wouldn't have come here otherwise. So the Knicks do need to clear up that room right now, right? There's a lot more talk heating up about Pacome Dardier, right? And that is according to the reports. That's not us speculating. That's, you know, concrete, uh, discussions and reports that have been coming out from the journalists. And obviously, I feel like Pacome Dardier would have a lot of interest around the league. We'll see what happens with that possible movement to clear up that roster spot. Let us know what you guys feel is going to happen and who might be the one to make way. Carlos is in the building. Salute. Um, obviously, we know, man, Joel Embiid is a touchdown in Abu Dhabi as well. We know that rivalry. It's going to be good to start the season off against a familiar foe. I think Philly are kind of going a little bit under the radar because expectations are kind of quelled now that they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. They've been dealing with, a lot of setbacks, man. They've been stuck in the mud for 2 seasons now. But we'll see what Philly's all about. They might come out and surprise us. But I think preseason tomorrow, what I'm expecting is, the starters to get in there, do their thing, show us this new system, pace and space with the ball movement. And then I do think probably come second half, we'll see some tinkering of some lineups. We'll probably see a heavy bench rotation of 11 to 12 guys, maybe more. And obviously, as the preseason goes along, like we chopped up with the last stream, guys, the Washington, the Charlotte games, I think, are going to be, an opportunity for maybe that last camp battle spot. But yeah, as I said, these guys have just been obviously taken in the customs. Like I said, bonding on an early road trip in this season. We have Deuce McBride, OG Anunoby riding the camels. And just relaxing, I think, before the season, kicks off. Obviously, later this month, man, we are officially in October. My birthday's later this month, so shout out to all the October fam as well. It's a good time of year now. We've got the baseball playoffs, NFL's popping. Well, maybe not if you're a Jets or a Giants fan, but we're so glad to have our New York Knicks now finally, man, ready to get things going. Now, how could I forget? We have a poll in the chat, like we do, man. I'm gonna have a poll in every single live stream, just increase the engagement and get the pulse of what you guys are feeling, right? And so tonight's poll, and shout out to Replay Squad, anyone watching us on replay, salute. Great to have you with us as well. Everyone live in the building with Paula now joining us, salute. Smash that like button, appreciate you. And also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Our poll tonight is the Knicks will win the chip this year because ... Option number 1, we have the depth now. And that's leading at 47%, right? Option number 2, because of continuity, the team looks hungry. That's coming in at 32%. Second now. Third option, Tibbs is gone. / Mike Brown is now here, right? So it could be either or. You like what Mike Brown's doing, you feel like Tibbs gone and we're going to see something different. 16%. That's coming in as the third option. And last but not least, the fourth option is we're going to win the chip this year because the East is bad, right? And that's certainly going to help. Not going to be the number one reason because you obviously need to get out west as well and defeat what's going to be a tough Western Conference opponent, but that's coming in at 5% as well. So that's the poll. And look, without further ado, guys, we've got a big stream tomorrow. So let's get into tonight's stream. And we'll go back and forth, answer the questions in the chat as well, and talk about all things New York Knicks preseason, ladies and gentlemen. Paula says, I'm looking forward to the Knicks season because my other teams wet the bed. I feel you, and so many times that was relating to the New York Knicks, and we'd look to another sport as well, but, how the times have changed, where the Knicks are the ones holding us down, right? Dawn's in the building as well. Great to have you with us, Dawn. Kind of nervous about the next couple of days. Dardier would be a shame to let go, but we need to win now. Um, Dawn, it is a case of like, yeah, I'm torn, and it sounds like you're torn about, wanting to keep Dardier and some of the young guys that we want to see more of, slash wanting to win right now. And it's tough to see what we're going to get with Brogdon and Shamit because it's been a little bit of an up and down situation with Brogdon's last few seasons. I was taking a look at his numbers in the league. Last season, he only played like 26 or 28 games, averaged 23 minutes, still put up 12 points, like 4 rebounds, close to 5 assists. So he's still an extremely productive player. What kind of surprised me with Malcolm Brogdon was that he's only 32. I kind of felt like he was 33, possibly even 34. So that kind of surprised me with how long Malcolm Brogdon has been around, right? He's still young, but the last few seasons have been kind of derailed due to poor health, right? So hopefully it's a gamble that pays off for us. And with that said, without further ado, guys, so here's the tier list from tonight. As I say, man, as a diehard, I speak truthfully from the heart that every single New York Knick is important, right? I'm not doing this to downplay, the importance of any specific player. It's simply to highlight, okay, for us to win that championship, who's going to be the guys that's going to, carry the most importance, from most important to potential least important role to help us win that championship. But every New York Knick is important. Like I said, they could have their moment that, lifts us to a huge victory on the road, late in February, right? It could be a back-to-back against Washington, and one of our young guys gets hot, carries us to that dub. So that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. But as a whole, we have our MVPs coming in at the very top, right? So they're going to be the ones that lift us to that chip. The second most important tier is you can't win the chip without. So these are the players that I can't envision, or maybe you can't envision us winning a championship without these guys playing a major role. Healthy, playing major minutes, etc., etc. Third, most important, ranking is they're a key piece. They're a key piece, key cog, a glue piece, and they keep the wheels moving, ladies and gentlemen. The fourth most important tier tonight is next man up. It might be okay. It's a setback, but we could be okay if the next guy steps up in a player's absence, etc. Fifth most important is they're a bonus, they're gravy. If they produce, okay, we're not expecting them to be a major player for us, but if they do, contribute or even get a role, it'll be gravy. And look, last but not least is, mostly going to be assigned to a lot of the younger players, but it's like, show us what you got. We're not relying on you to carry us to a championship, but this year is all about just showing us what you got as well. So let's get it started, guys. I want you to join the conversation as well. Yuri Ark, salute. So let's get the major players out the way, right? Right. MVPs, right? Who's gonna say in the chat, right? Who's the first guy you got in the MVP? Right? Obviously this is quite straightforward, ladies and gentlemen, but we do need to keep the house in order. And with that said, Yuri Art comes through like clutch, like JBBB, clutch down the stretch. So come on down, Jalen Brunson. He could be the MVP of the league. Let's keep it real. Coming in at number 10 on the ESPN rankings now. Finally, some respect, right? Jalen Brunson, his playoff resume now has got him on the map in terms of a top 10 national media player, top 10. Some saying that's still low. Should Jalen Brunson be higher than the 10th ranked player in the league, right? And before we get to the next guy, man, we can't do JB Dirty. Like, okay, for us to win a championship, Jalen Brunson would have to be in the real MVP conversation in the league. Um, but for us personally, it could be him, you know, most likely continuing what he did last season, but also sacrificing some of those numbers, I think, to get the ball moving, um, sacrificing a new system where, last season he thrived under Tibbs with the heavy usage, but obviously we ran out of gas. So, um, onwards and upwards. Big up to Jalen Brunson for his two seasons now with the Knicks, 3 seasons. Um, may the best yet to come. So salute. Michael Drake, welcome in. Next up, another guy. Big acquisition last season, right, on the eve of media day. Roughly 12 months to the day. Welcome in to Karl Anthony Towns, ladies and gentlemen. Huge season, first season with the New York Knicks. And look, got to give him the mass respect that he deserves as an all-NBA player. He produced last season. He struggled defensively in the 5 role. That's going to be one of the biggest things that people look out to see how Mike Brown, addresses this. We have the depth now, and shout out to the poll in the chat. That's leading at 48%. The Knicks will win this year because we have the depth now. So that's on a lot of fans' minds right now. We have that depth, specifically at the 5. So Mitch is healthy now, and we probably don't need to see Cat, a whole lot at the 5, ladies and gentlemen. And so no doubt Cat is very effective offensively at the 5, and so I think it's going to be a balancing act. How are you guys feeling about it? Michael Drake says, yeah, Cat, big first season. And Doug Fresh says, salute to all. So yeah, just before we move to the next guy, look, for Cat, right, for us to win a championship this year, it's quite self-explanatory. But obviously we're going to rely heavily on Cat scoring. But if he can step up defensively, in ways that we didn't see last season, that would be a major boost. And hopefully, again, under a new coach with some adjustments, the A word, I'm bringing out the A word already, some adjustments, there's film to chop up. Mike Brown's been obviously, going heavy. And I think we'll be more versatile defensively, hopefully some switching, less or no drop, blitz or zone, potentially, to get Cat in more comfortable situations, right, on the defensive side. Right. Now, this is where things get real interesting, right? We got the 2 obligatory, I think, MVPs out of the way. Or is there another MVP we should add to the mix, right? I'm doing this on the fly, man. None of this is preconceived. So, you guys join the conversation. Let me know, does someone else deserve to be moved also into that MVP category where, okay, we can't win the chip without them, but they're a level above that? Maybe they defend the best player every single night. Maybe they are going to, need to give us 25 points a night. It's definitely a great conversation. That's why we're doing this. It's a good debate to have, right? Now, I don't think no new Nick is obviously going to, earn themselves that kind of spot, that billing just yet, because, it's going to be someone who was with us either last season or beyond last season, right? So let's look at Mikal Bridges, ladies and gentlemen, a polarizing figure, right? Mikal Bridges, where does he rank for you in terms of most important Nick? Mikal Bridges had a very polarizing first season. We saw the highs of the high, and we saw the lows of the low, fam. Let's hope it's a steady diet of consistency. The defense was great at times, elite at other times, but then sometimes it was a disappearing act. late in games. You could put some of that down to the coach, maybe the system. Maybe his first season in New York, it was just, he was, adjusting. It was a bumpy ride at times, fam. But yeah, this is all subjective, purely from my perspective, your perspective, and as we're doing this. But for me, based on the way this roster is constructed, I'm going to put Midi Macau Bridges, fam, right up there with we can't win a chip without him. We can't win a chip without Macau Bridges, fam, without the best of Macau Bridges, right? I mean, you can only look back last season, man. We wouldn't have beaten Boston without those key stops where he stepped up. And he deserves those props because he stepped up. He stepped up in those moments, man. We all remember those massive Nick moments in the playoffs. Allen Houston, man, at the buzzer. We all remember the Patrick Ewing tip jam. We all remember a lot of those massive moments. Mikal Bridges had himself some moments, fam. Not to that level, but definitely moments that I'll never forget. Most of y'all will never forget. And hopefully he's just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully he's just getting started as a Knick. Now sign the big bag. And Mike Brown. Mike Brown's ready to get to work with one of his wings, right? This is one of his wings. Make no mistake about it. Jason Benjamin, salute. Great to see you. Great to have you with us, man. On the eve of preseason, we're getting through the most important New York Knicks, man, from top to bottom, right? And like I said, this is subjective, but every Knick is important to our success. But we're definitely highlighting what we feel, who's going to play, that major role for us, fam. Now, I want to just mix it up, right? Instead of pivoting to an OG, let's do OG next or later. Now, let's talk about a guy like Mitchell Robinson. Money making Mitch hasn't got that bag just yet. Was a key piece coming back into the playoffs. Where would y'all rank Mitchell Robinson? Mitch Rob. Paula says, well, he needs to step it up more this season, all of them, as a matter of fact. No doubt. Yeah, for us to win that chip, you said it, everyone has to step up. Stephen King asks, who is even the leader of this team vocally? It's definitely not Brunson or Hart. That's a great question. Obviously, Brunson is the captain, though. Brunson is the captain officially. Some felt like he could be more vocal. Definitely. I know Brunson isn't the most vocal guy, but I'm not in the locker room. You're not in that locker room. I think he's a mild-mannered guy, is JB. That's why, yeah, like Steven's, question, I think PJ Tucker was brought in to be a voice. Maybe we are missing that, and we could do with a lot more guys kind of, chopping it up and and definitely getting their thoughts heard out here. Now we have a super chat with Jason Benjamin. Salute, Jason. Jason says Macau had a very good first season with us. I think some Knick fans were too critical of him last season. He's the reason we won that Celtic series, in my opinion. Yeah, I can't disagree with you, Jason. He had a good season, I think, overall, but I think he could do better, and that's just my personal opinion. But he definitely was that key reason that we got those two massive wins in Boston with the stops, and I think he's more capable of giving us even more. So yeah, I'm really excited to see. He's one of my key players to watch for this season coming up. Appreciate you for your thoughts in the super chat with that one. Yeah, that Celtic series, 2 games that I'll never forget in Boston, man. Crazy finish. It left us shell-shocked. It left the Boston Celtics shell-shocked, and they just never recovered. after that, man. Macau was in their head with that one. Now, what do I want to see more from Macau? I just want to see him featured more offensively. I think get him comfortable. We saw a little bit of that swagger. He's always got that, the selly, and he's got the respect of his teammates. He's a great teammate. He's got the respect of the opponents. I would like to see him play a bit tougher and, not duck some contact, and really, now that he's got that contract, maybe he won't be worried about that Iron Man streak, as much. Doug Fresh. So back to Mitchie now. We're on to the fourth New York Knick, Mitchell Robinson. Doug Fresh has 10 points, 10 rebounds this year for Mitch. And Carlos would put Mitch in we can't win a chip without Mitch. And after thinking about it quite, carefully, I got to agree. Fam. Whether it's Mitch or a guy of his prototype, I don't think we can win a chip without Mitchell Robinson. So, yeah, Carlos is on the board tonight. Salute. Definitely. I mean, we need stops. We need stops in a bad way. But I want to highlight Mitch on the offensive side. As Doug mentioned, 10 rebounds, 10 points, and being vocal as well. Now, Mitch is a guy that actually talks. Like, Steven, how do you feel about Mitch? I think Mitch has grown into a guy who likes to talk. But it's even, imperative that he, keeps that up, as the last line of defense. And we need guys to call ball, says Mike Brown, right? Stop those transition baskets. But we all know that a guy like Mitch is back there to protect that rim, right? Looking forward to talking about Huck Porty because he's the closest thing to Mitch that's not Mitch. Obviously, he's not Mitch, but he's the closest thing that we have on this roster. So, does Huck Porty get a real breakout this season? We'll talk about him later tonight. Susan's in the building, says can't wait for the season to start. Going to be a New York kind of thing. Salute to Shez V. So Doug Fresh says Mitch is a must. Carlos, yeah, we need that defense. And Shez V says Mitch is one of the biggest keys. Right. I think he's more than a key piece. I think you can't win a championship the way this roster is constructed, I think, without Mitchell Robinson. Yeah? And you only need to look at the champions previously. Yes, OKC had like Chet. They've got some offensive big men, but they have Isaiah Hartenstein. And guess what? They knew that they had to go out and get Isaiah Hartenstein, and spend the bag to steal him away from us. And I still haven't forgiven, OKC. Still haven't forgiven Isaiah. But they got a good one. And obviously he was a key piece to fortify their defense, right? So let's mix this up, man. Let's go Yabusele, right? I want to leave Hart and OG. I want to leave them hanging there for a minute, right? Let's go to a brand new Knick, Gershon Yabusele. We haven't got no sample size of him as a New York Knick yet, so this is all speculation, just for the fun. But where would Yabusele rank for you, knowing that we obviously haven't seen him play as a New York Knick, right? The way I'm looking at it, from the lens that I'm looking at Gershon, is that, yes, we haven't seen him as a Knick, but we recruited him as a key bench piece, right? A key piece, right? And you take him away, and then our scoring off the bench is going to dip, I think, in a significant way. And yes, we brought in Clarkson. Yes, we brought in Brogdon as well. But I envision Yabusele averaging like, I think 15 to 16 points could be a real nice number that I think would obviously elevate our bench scoring, you know, um, in a major way. Dirty Dance is coming through. Salute. Says next man up. I think that's fair as well. We haven't seen Yabusele yet. We could still win that championship, obviously, without him. It's not a deal breaker, I think, from this perspective yet. But he has that chance to prove otherwise. Can you be a key piece if you haven't played as a Nick yet? That could be the debate. That could be that debate. Yeah, David Haas Jr. Salute says Diawara and Yabu can play big roles. I think they will. And I think definitely Yabusele. I'm debating whether it's key piece or next man up. Fam. But the way I'm looking at it is from the perspective of trying to win that championship. That's what I'm looking at this from. And I can't see the Knicks winning a championship without Yabusele being, a key piece, key cog, or a glue guy. I think he's slightly beyond next man up because he's quite unique. I don't know if we have a player like him on this roster that can, rebound, play that big forward, big spot, rebound, hit threes as well. We have Cat, but obviously I think we need a little bit more than that. But yeah, look, everyone's got their own definitions, which I love, fam. As Dirty's, explains, to me, a key piece means that they have to play in Game 7 of a finals game. Could go either way with Yabu. Yeah, 100%. Salute to Bob. Great to see you. Knicks 26 champs. What's up? Optimus 2G. We've got a super chat coming through from Jason. Salute to Jason. Says, Cat looking quick on that move to get to the basket. Yeah. Let me bring that up on the larger screen because I haven't really paid attention to a whole lot of these highlights just yet. Brunson definitely is trimmed down. That's noticeable to me right away. Exactly like Jason said as well. Macau looks trim as usual. Hart looks trimmer as well. I think Landry looks really good. He's moving well. I've seen some other footage of Landry. But yeah, Cat's moving well. And he's looking quicker, like Jason says, on this situation. So we've got Mitch in the grey. We'll see who gets the start tomorrow, fam. Who's the other starter in the blue? It's Josh Hart in this particular thing. But I'm not reading too much into that. I think he will mix it up. He will mix it up. So yeah, back to the tier list. We got our first New York Knick, and we're debating between key piece or next man up. I think for Yabusele, but I think for the Knicks to win that championship, I think Yabu will be a major key piece off the bench. Now, who are we going to talk about next? Let's talk about Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride, ladies and gentlemen. How are you feeling about Deuce right now? Salute to Mellow Mike. Great to see you. I think, we'll talk about good question from Optimus 2G. Let me star that. We'll talk about that as we hit on Kolek and Dardier. But yeah, great question. I'm seeing you guys in the building on fire. Deuce McBride, for me, right? There's been a little bit of trade speculation. I'm not going to, really talk about that. We don't know who might get traded. That's not what this is about right now. A lot of the younger players are a trade target for other teams. The Knicks do need to clear that spot. We'll wait to see what ends up happening. But my read is that Deuce will stick around. Obviously, the organization loves Deuce. We love Deuce. He loves being a New York Knick. But obviously, he's got 2 years left to fulfill on his current contract. What I see with Deuce right now, and I'm just going off the last playoff run, which got us within 6 games of winning that championship, man. The former Nick or last year's Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, got us within 6 wins of the Larry O'Brien, and I don't think we can really gloss over that. You know, we were damn close. We were so close, and so all we need is some of these guys to just reproduce what they were able to achieve, not necessarily take a major leap or anything, just reproduce what they were able to do, and maybe some of the fine tuning and some of the new additions will get us over the top. Um, Steven says Deuce getting less minutes. Optimus 2G says Knicks need Deuce for this run. Dirty Dancer says key piece to me, involved in our most best lineups from last season. Yep. I'm giving him heavy consideration to can't win a chip without. I'm probably not going to go that far, but that's how much respect I've got for Deuce, because again, he's a unique player for our squad in terms of like he's one of our best perimeter defenders, and he can score as well. He could score at a high level. Um, you know, but we have some other guys that I think would be able to step up if we didn't have Deuce. And I would not say this if we didn't sign Brogdon. I wouldn't say this if I didn't think highly enough of Josh Hart. Clarkson adding more scoring, and potential younger guys stepping up with Dardier or McCullough. And so I'm not going to go as far as can't win a chip without, but I gave that consideration. But no doubt about it, Deuce McBride is a key piece. No doubt about it, fam. Before we get to the next guy, we've got Buzzer Beater in the building. Salute Benjamin B. People are on fire tonight. Optimus says, yeah, Deuce offers that great on-ball and perimeter defense, but also being such a major catch and shoot threat. That the opposing defense really needs to pay attention to. The amount of time Deuce gets loose, figuratively and literally, is one of our greatest weapons, fam. And like to Dirty Dancer's point, we just didn't see that enough. He was a part of some of our best lineups, if not our best lineup, and we just didn't see that enough, fam. So with Coach Brown, like Bob says, we're going back to basics. Back to basics, fam. Up and down. Pass, player movement, ball movement, like the last New York Knicks championship. Shout out to the class of 73. Yeah, Mellow Mike, great to hit on that. Good looks. We did sign Donovan Williams from the West to the Westchester club. So it looks like he'll be in camp, fam. So yeah, shout out. Donovan Williams had a solid season last year with the Westchester Knicks. So great to see them look out for him. I do think he'll be kept around, and they'll try to take care of him, keep him around Westchester, and I think maybe give him some camp money. But don't see him, making the main squad. Of course, with some of the the other guys we've got right now. Yeah, look, Deuce McBride, he's got size limitations, we know, but he's great at navigating the pick, and stopping ball, Look, one of my most frustrating things was just either a wide open three last season or it was a layup. We gotta turn the water off first and foremost. Yes, we're a great offensive team. We need to get better defensively. There's no doubt about it. We can just tighten that up, and that could be Mikal Bridges stepping up and having a career year. That could be OG Anunoby, just staying healthy, and Cat, tweaking the system slightly to accommodate Cat, and Mitchell Robinson being healthy. I think, that could just be enough. And we'll see what plays out. But that's Deuce McBride now on the board. Now, let's hit on, man. He was and still is, I think, a cult hero, a fan favorite. Although, You know, it's tumultuous sometimes, but he brings out the best. He brings out the best in Knicks fans, man. He wears number 3 with pride, right? He took that number from John Starks, as he looked up and respected him, man. And he is Josh Lionheart, ladies and gentlemen, right? How would you sum up Josh Hart's Knicks run so far? Not just last season, but in totality. What has it been? 2.5 seasons now, or 3 seasons for Jay Hart, right? Key piece, next man up. Is he replaceable now? I know some fans feel like he could be replaced. Can we not win a championship without a guy like Josh Hart? He does the dirty work. Every championship team needs that guy to do some of that dirty work. Look at Alex Caruso last season. Look at guys of former championship teams. Let's see how that plays out. I'm still thinking. I'm thinking right now, man. I need convincing. What are you guys thinking about Josh Hart? Let me know. As Buzzer says, salute to 60 wins. Man, you're loving the 60 wins, and I would absolutely love for the Knicks to get to 60 wins, man, and create history. But I'm not sweating. I'm not sweating the regular season, wins so much, fam. It's all about the playoffs. For me, it's all about the playoffs. I wouldn't care if we won 52, to be honest, 53, and get to that second seed healthy. That's all that's on my wish list, fam. Dirty Dancer goes key piece. Carlos says key piece for Josh Hart. Stephen King says he's older now. Michael Drake, salute, says Josh Hart is also very important for a new Knicks NBA championship. Right. Yeah. Look, I think Josh Hart is going to have a lesser role in terms of production and minutes, but that doesn't mean that his importance is diminished. It could just be, okay, the key minutes that he does play is even more key, because we have some depth now, so he doesn't really need to, he doesn't need to kill himself out there. And I think that's a good thing for him and for us in regards to Josh Hart. Now, he would obviously love to start still, and I do think he's no less than a key piece, right? I'm more thinking like, okay, can we win a championship without Josh Hart? Well, someone would have to step up majorly because he does play a major role. He's a major rotation piece. And I know I'm going to get some blowback from this. If I put Hart in can't win a championship without, there's going to be some people that disagree. If I put Hart in key piece, there could be some fans that feel like, hey, we can't win a championship without Josh Hart because he plays major minutes and he's so versatile. I think his ball handling. Is really key as well. Damn. But feeling like he is aging, his minutes and production are probably going to go down slightly, maybe even more. So I'm gonna fit Josh Hart firmly in that key piece, right? In that key piece, but right on the border. Because if he goes down, let's say there's no Josh Hart, then yeah, someone heck better step up. Someone needs to really take on that role, and that would leave a void, But I do think we got some guys like Macau, OG, Yabu, that could could really take on a lot of the bulk. But yeah, really appreciate y'all. Buzzer says CT facts, but there is something to say about momentum. Great point, man. Big up. I agree. Momentum, man, it's a hell of a thing. It could just be like a freight train, man. Snowball effect. We just head into the season with 60 into the postseason with 60 wins, and we're just feeling so confident that we've got every team's measure in the East. Yours truly, great to see you. Bless up to you and family. Hope everyone's doing well. Now, Dirty's thoughts on J Hart. You can't be higher than a key piece when you can take a team out of a series or win a series single-handedly. Yeah, the fact that Hart, his best situations now really need to be considered who he's playing with, and hopefully that finger ain't really going to hurt. I don't want this story to be about Hart's finger. Hopefully that's a non-story and that he's able to just be, the best version of himself. Um, hopefully that's the case. Yeah, we have some mixing opinions. Great to see David Jones say you can't win a chip without Josh Hart. Just as a locker room guy alone, rebounds, intensity off the bench or on the starting lineup. And yeah, David, I don't disagree. I was really considering that right now. I just think third year in, I think Hart will take a slightly lesser role, but very, very, very important role. And he's right on the border, on the cusp of can't win a championship without. But yeah, his leadership is understated. You know, I mentioned this before in another show, but that time when Mikal Bridges was at his lowest hour, who else? Who stepped up? Who stepped to his defense? It was Josh Hart. He was taking a berating from the fan base online. Man, people wanted to ship Mikal Bridges out. And it was Josh Hart that that showed his leadership and experience too. And let's not forget, Josh Hart has that connection with Jordan Clarkson now. And, according to Clarkson, Josh Hart was one of the main reasons that he really, this appealed to him. So let's give Hart his respect, right? He's going to be a key piece, glue guy. Johnny says Josh Hart is a cog in a championship team, no doubt. No doubt, Johnny. Buzzer says, yeah, also, Josh Hart is a key piece for us. And Grays says we can't win that chip without Josh. No other Nick does what he does. No other Nick has that passion as well. So yeah, we got some huge Josh Hart fans in the building as well as Knicks diehards. So love y'all all. Got the super chat from Jason Benjamin, man. Jason's got the streets buzzing. Says, where would you rank our roster among the NBA? Where would I rank our roster among the NBA? Fam, man, great question. Now, the good thing is that we have a segment in tonight's show that's also going to touch on this, right? But voila, we are going to talk about our NBA tier list, ladies and gentlemen, and coming in hot. I'll give you a little snippet right now because Jason's got the streets buzzing, right? So, contender is the top tier. I think we probably have the second or third best roster in the league, fam. Taking into consideration Fred VanVleet's injury, I think that's really hurt the Rockets. That's set them down a tier. I had the Rockets in the top contender, but now I've got them in the second category, which is trying hard. So first tier is contender, second one trying hard, the third tier is I can't see it. Fourth tier is better luck next year, and so forth. So, yeah, we will get back into that later in tonight's stream. But yeah, I've got the Knicks roster, Jason, around I think second or third. I would say their second or third best roster, alongside OKC and probably the Nuggets, right? I think we are probably deeper than Minnesota. I've got us higher than Minnesota. So I've got OKC, Knicks, Denver, neck and neck. And then I think it's a slight drop to the Rockets, Minnesota. Fam, be a great question. Appreciate you for the contributions as always. So yeah, we've got Hart now. Let's talk about, let's mix this up like we do. Malcolm Brogdon, right? Another new Nick. Malcolm B. Where does Malcolm Brogdon rank, right? Knowing that, you know, some other young Knicks point guards might be in the trade rumors, right? This guy's on a non-guaranteed deal. The Knicks spent 2 months to try to convince him or to pursue him to come. They liked him last free agency as well, right? He didn't want to come unless he had a major role. And where would y'all rank with Malcolm Brogdon with a a foreshadowing of maybe what the season is going to be? Uh, Dirty Dancer says next man up. Buzzer also says we're deeper than Denver and Mini. Yep, I agree. I think we're probably number 2 behind the OKC. And could that be the finals preview? Let's hope. Brogdon next man up, says Buzzer as well. Right, this could be straightforward. Next man up. So next man up means, okay, it's a setback. Let's say if this guy went down or missed time, and it's an opportunity for the next guy to step up. And I would flirt with maybe a key piece, but we haven't seen that enough yet. And why I'm leaning towards next man up is because we had that guy last season. Now, he might not be as effective. He might not be as effective offensively, and that's Deuce McBride I'm talking about. But obviously, Deuce McBride was able to hold us down last season, man, in a major way. So, yeah, look, Brogdon, he could even be classified as gravy or a bonus, right? We haven't seen him yet. He could be a major piece, but I think he slots in at next man up, right? Next man up. That's Clarkson, who could fill in if Brogdon was to go down. Damn. So I've got Brogdon and next man up, just like some of y'all. And he is an upgrade. He is most likely going to be the backup point guard. He is an upgrade over Campaign. No doubt about it. Johnny Salute says if Brogdon is 100%, this bench is starter worthy. You said it. I agree. It's definitely starter worthy. Health, permitting. But yeah, we can get so versatile. We could play cat a lot with the second units as well. I see some people make great suggestions that you could substitute cat out first, get Yabu in there, and cat could be a guy that comes back in early when the bench unit is in, and he could dominate, or help dominate some other bench lineups as well. Now, we're going to hit on Clarkson shortly, but before we do that, OG Anunoby, fam. How do y'all feel about OG's importance to this squad, right? Anyone that's just joining us, as I said earlier, every Nick is important to help us on this journey, but obviously others are some more important than their teammates. Now, OG Anunoby, I mean, what can you say about him? Health is important. His production is valuable. Is it most valuable? Arguably so. I mean, we don't have a two-way player like OG, and there's not many of them in the NBA. There's not many players like OG Anunoby, fam, in the NBA. Right? What was OG's tenure defined by? Remember that stat? It was like the Knicks are 35-2 since OG became a Knick, and that just seemed to keep rolling. We're now 33-5 when OG's a Knick. Then we were 34-5, and it just seemed like OG was that, he was that remedy when he first became a Knick, and we were just rolling teams. So with that said, man, OG Anunoby, I don't think he's quite MVP, but he's definitely can't win a chip. Can't win a chip without, right? And I'm talking about this season specifically. Carlos agrees. Yep, salute. Knicks one today says OG is crazy when he's clicking. Yep, we're crazy. We're crazy as a team when OG is clicking. Optimus 2G agrees. Can't win that chip without. David agrees. Buzzer agrees. We might be unanimous with this one. I like it. Benjamin says Brogdon is too low. It's debatable for real. I agree. I think you could have him key piece. I just feel like if he's out, we have enough of someone else that could step up. I don't want to diminish what he could be for this team, but I think if Brogdon didn't exist, we'd have Clarkson, we'd have Deuce, and I think we'd be okay. Having said that, that could change. If Brogdon stays healthy and is the primary backup point guard all season, then I think he definitely goes up. Super duper X factor as well is OG. Paula says OG is one of the most valuable players on the Knicks. So you said it. He could be MVP. He could be one of the MVPs. It's just one player that you just don't want to see us lose. One of those players that you just can't even think about us not having, and that just speaks to his value, no doubt about it. Now for this season, OG Anunoby should see an increase, I think, in a role. We want to play faster, so he should get more threes up, from the corners. His transition defense, if we are sprinting up and down, his transition defense is going to be critical for us. Him and Mitchell Robinson, there's a world where him and Mitchell Robinson could be in that MVPs category, but they're still very, very valuable. Now, moving along, let's talk about, as I said, Jordan Clarkson, another brand new Knick. JC, right? We haven't seen him yet, but we already know, man, he's a 33-year-old. We know what he brings. We know what Jordan Clarkson brings, and it's a much-needed spark, scoring, facilitating, and a much, much-needed upgrade than what we had last season. So for me, man, this is easy. I'm putting Jordan Clarkson in key piece. Right. So let's get JC where he needs to be, and that is key piece, right? I think from a durability perspective, I think we're going to, have and rely on Jordan Clarkson a little bit more than a Brogdon. But as I said, I think that could change. Dirty agrees, key piece. Carlos says key piece. Buzzer Beater says Clarkson and Yabusele. X factors. Yeah, most definitely. SF Wisdom says this may be a hot take, but I'm not sold on Brogdon. I think he has 1 foot out the league and is an injury away. I don't think he is going to help out the team much. Hopefully he can help us out a lot, man. I can understand where you're coming from. I see what you're, referring to in terms of it's going to be a bonus if he can be healthy. But yeah, he is still a very productive player based on his numbers. When he's healthy. So we'll see how it all plays out, fam. Look, yeah, these are my thoughts specifically. Yeah, you're welcome to give your input. We shout it out, man, but no disrespect in the chat. To say I'm just copying someone or copying what the front office thinks, man, you couldn't be further from the truth, man. Buzzer says, CT, do you have an X Factor category? I don't, man. I think X Factor category would probably fit into that key piece because they all kind of X Factor categories. With Clarkson, Hart, Deuce, and of course Yabu. I think that's the kind of closest thing, fam, to the X Factor situation. Now let's talk about big man, Ariel Huck Porty, right? At least we have a sample to go off. right? Rookie year, showed in flashes that he could really help out. When given rotation minutes, he could be a critical backup center. Defensive purposes, shown some offensive flashes. I think with Huck, it's going to be a case of health as well. Do we have a ready-made replacement for him? Does he fit in that category, next man up? Who is that next man up, though, if it is Huck? Or is he somewhere in between? Is he somewhere in between Gravy, it's a bonus what he gives us, / next man up? Or is he set to take on a bigger role? Let us know. Carlos says Huck is the next man up. Yep. Dirty Dancer, though, says Gravy. He gives them something. I'm surprised. Yeah. I feel like he's right there in between. Right there in between, fam. But I'm going to go next man up just because I do think Mike Brown is really going to like Huck Porty. And I do think that he's going to get significant opportunities, fam. I think he's going to get significant opportunities just because I think Mitch is obviously going to play a lot. And I don't think Yabusele and Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think he offers the same level of, defensive potential, defensive production as a Huck. So, yeah, hopefully he can stay healthy this season, and I think you will see a role. You'll see a healthy role with this team. Maybe not significant role, but I think you will see a good role with this team, right? But if he's injured, there are other guys that could step up. We do have, obviously, with Mitch, Kat, Yabu. If they're all healthy, we're okay. We have Trey Jemison on the two-way. We know Mitch. We know OG could play some 5 a little bit part-time, and we do know Diawara has some good length as well. Yep, David agrees. Huck Porty, next man up. Buzzer says Huck, next man up. He's really in between those two categories. So, yeah. Let's do that. Let's keep him in between then, fam. Done. You guys said it. Great point from Optimus. They need him to play when Mitch gets hurt or sits in back-to-backs. Yep, no doubt. Defensively, he's that like-for-like replacement, the closest like-for-like for Mitch. But if he's out, we have other guys that I think could, we could play in a different style and get by. Dirty says, I have Mitch starting because it means that Huck probably has to play, and that's not good for a title caliber team. No, I hate Mitch starting. Sorry, Dirty says, I hate Mitch starting because it means that Huck has to play, and that's not good for a title caliber team. Yeah, I get what you mean, It's kind of unproven still with Huck Porty in a larger sample. I more so feel like with Mitch, we just need to keep his minutes down, whether he starts or he doesn't. I think we just need to make sure that he can play, out the entire season, and not necessarily play 30 a night, but play, 26, 28, and, try to finish the season out healthy. So that's what I'm looking for from Mitchie. Now, with a couple of young guys still in the mix, some two-ways, let's welcome in. Let's talk about Landry Shamet. Fam, I haven't given this much consideration. Landry Shamet, loved by the organization, loved by the teammates, was productive when he was healthy, a real shooting, weapon, a shooting spark, right? Is he a key piece? Well, I think the addition of Clarkson kind of reduced the need of Shamet. I think Shamet fits in to Gravy, fam. How do y'all feel about that, right? Not relying on him, anything that he gives us, I think is going to be gravy. for one Landry Shamet. Buzzer's gone Shamet, next man up. David's also gone Sham, next man up. Carlos says gravy. Optimus says Shamet belongs in next man up. You guys are loving Landry. His defense is big time. I think he will play a major role with the Knicks. I'm just not counting on him, and I just think we've got the depth now to cover up, in terms of importance. Sal P salute says, is Malcolm B better than the previous starting Knicks point guards? Chris Dupont, Ray Felt, Jay Lynn. Is Malcolm Brogdon better? Look, Duhon, under Mike D'Antoni, man, Chris Duhon played a major role. Ray Felt, I think, would be better than Brogdon. But yeah, Brogdon would be coming in at second for me, ahead of Jay Lynn and ahead of Duhon. But yeah, I got love for Ray Felt. Ray Felt had a major run. Cup of coffee for the first run, but the second run was a major run, fam. But yeah, Malcolm B coming in as possibly the 10th man. Well, I think he's going to be the first backup point guard, but yeah, kind of, lower down in the pecking order in terms of, the 10-man rotation. I do think Clarkson's going to be more important than Brogdon. Just going off track record, I just don't know if I can count on Malcolm, to stay healthy for an entire season, right? He could be a guy that just like, okay, let's just save him for the main run, late in the season and the playoffs. It worked with Landry. Landry got out. Unfortunately, it was due to the injury. Then he, had to overcome what he had to overcome, and then, then he came back at the critical stretch. Now we're left with some young guys, right? Now let's start with Pacome Dardier, right? Latest news today is that he is one of the main young guys garnering the most interest in, a trade talk around the league. The Knicks do need to clear a spot. I would hate to lose Dardier, but I understand that, he would have the most value out of most of them, right? Or all of them. So for me, I do think there's a real situation where Dardier could earn a rotation spot if there's a guy or two get hurt, or even if it's just for a stretch in the season where he fits into an 11-man or a 10-man on back-to-backs. So with that said, I think anything we could get out of Dardier would be gravy, right? We're not relying on him. I don't think he's going to be in the rotation to start. If he produces or earns a spot at some point this season, I think it's going to be gravy for Dardier. Yeah, Ray Felt. You guys cracked me up. Johnny says CT likes Shamet because he looks like him. Oh, man. Appreciate ya. Carlos says, show us what you got for Dardier. That could be true as well. Show us what you got. But I do think Dardier is slight more possibility that he gets some minutes under Mike Brown. I could see some kind of pathway where, let's say, Shamet doesn't make it, Brogdon gets hurt, Deuce is out. I think Dardier could fit into a 10-man. Dirty says the only reason I would look to move Dardier is you think Garrison could really help us this year, which Dardier can't. With shooting wise, yeah, Garrison would be more lethal. I think defensively, Dardier could be more reliable with that. Buzzabita says, Dardier, show us what you got, fam. Show us what you got. So let's do the same thing what we did with Huck. Let's put Dardier somewhere in between. somewhere in between. Now, the next guy, Tyler Kolek. Tyler, the creator, got some big fans in the organization and the fan base, right? I've talked about him recently a lot. Obviously, his name has been in reports. I'm not bringing it up, but his name has been in reports among, the Knicks, receiving offers for as well. Some people getting upset about that in the comment section previously, but yeah, it is what it is, man. You can't please everybody. But yeah, Tyler Kolek, I don't know what the futures holds for Tyler. I think, again, as a true, point guard with a role that, that could be filled if Brogdon doesn't stay healthy, or if Jordan Clarkson, continues to play at the 2, there could be a situation where Tyler Kolek, comes in. Is he gravy? Is he show us what you got? Or is he halfway in between? Mellow Mike says, I'm rooting for Tyler. I watched him in Westchester. He just needs quality time and you'll see him blossom. Part of me still feels the same, Part of me feels like he could play that backup role. But where we're at now, fam, in terms of competing for that championship, it just might be wrong place, wrong time for Tyler. If we were kind of like 3 years ago, I could definitely see Tyler, play a major role with us. I think we've just graduated from that now in terms of what the front office is doing. But I'm going to keep him at gravy because, again, it would defy a lot of odds if he sticks around, through trade talks, plays a role in back-to-backs, even if it's 10 minutes. We know he's a distributor. He can, provide those assists and get guys going and get the offense flowing as well. If nothing else, we know Tyler Kolek can do that. Right. Don't forget TJ McConnell didn't just go from, cult legend, from not playing to cult legend in a blink. He worked his way up. He was like, okay, man, this guy's a pest. And then he became more consistent. And then he's like, okay, he's a consistent pest. Then he became, all right, man, this guy can actually find a shot. Now it's like, man, TJ McConnell, he's a killer. Now he's killing people. So I think with Tyler Kolek, if he wants to stick in the league, he just needs to, chip away at it and just make a name for himself. All right, I'm going to be in that guy, come in for 6 minutes, run the offense, right? I'm not here for defense. I'm just going to set guys up. Now, if he can get stronger and he can, hold his own defensively, I think that's going to allow Tyler Kolek to actually be looked at as a rotation piece. The 3-point shot, I think, is a swing skill. And I think with Tyler, it could just be right place, right time for him, or vice versa, depending on where he lands, where he sticks, where he lands. He's got some value, man. I tell you, if I'm Houston or I'm Philly, I'm definitely making a call because obviously Philly lost Jared McCain. The Houston Rockets have lost, Fred VanVleet as well. I said it heading into the draft. I thought Phoenix was going to take Tyler, but how fittingly the roles reversed, and they wanted Ryan Dunn, the product out of New York, and we liked him as well, but we ended up with Tyler. Tibbs was a big fan. Sal P says Tyler not ready for Indy 500. Carlos says, can Tyler handle ball pressure at the NBA level? That's the great unknown right now, and I would lean towards he's struggling now, fam. But Carlos, I think starting off on the bench could be good because, if you can play in an up-tempo system, less in the half court. I actually think Tyler could thrive more in the open court. The half court, it's going to be a case of, like you say, you could put some size to really, deter him. I think that's going to make things really tricky for him. I think he just needs to be able to craft that handle, get some separation. Um, Steven says they better trade Kolek if they know what's good, and bring in obviously Brogdon. Yeah, Graz says ironically Kolek would be a great fit in Minnesota, but not with the Knicks. Yeah, there's a lot of teams that I think could see a lot of value with Tyler, but our front office likes him obviously, and it's a case of maybe we wait it out. We express patience. Patience, guys, something that isn't easy at times. We all want that microwave, but sometimes you just got to be patient and just maybe see what happens. He is on a cheap contract. Um, he brings an NBA level skill set, um, which is elite passing as well. And he's strong minded. Great college career. I think he could stick in the league if he can just get through that period of just finding his way into a rotation. And maybe not looking back. And it's definitely going to be a team like us in terms of a deeper rotation, right? I don't think Kolek's finding his way into a rotation that's like an 8 or 9 man. It's going to have to be a 10 or 11 man, squad. I think for a Tyler. Um, Now we're getting towards the end, ladies and gentlemen. Now Muhammad Diawara, right? Mo Diawara, great summer league, right? First rookie year. Wish him all the best. I'm excited to see what Diawara brings right from tomorrow. We might see some mop-up duty in the second half of tomorrow's first preseason game. But Muhammad Diawara was really liked. Obviously given the roster, the regular roster deal, a lot of the financial reasons made sense, obviously, but I'm not gonna sell him short. They love him in terms of what he brings with his defense versatility. He could play two. He could guard ones, twos, threes, fours, fives. His ball handling looks intriguing. Looks a little loose, but that's to be expected at his size. But if the shooting can get to something that can flourish, I mean, man, we have a hell of a two-way player potentially on our hands. Now with Diawara, again, Mike Brown loves wings, and I think he's somewhere between show us what you got and gravy for Mo Diawara. How do you guys feel about Diawara? Carlos says, yeah, Diawara, show us what you got. Diawara belongs in show us what you got category for sure, says Optimus. So, yeah, we agree. We agree on that. But I do think there's a chance, along with Dardier, where, again, some injuries later in the season, Mike Brown might find some good use for these guys. And look, this is a testament to how deep our squad is. No doubt about it. Because I feel like, with especially under Thibodeau, man, most of those younger guys would not get any opportunities, especially in a win or bust season coming up. Yuri Ark says, CT, well, what I'm worried about is, will the whole team buy into Mike Brown's system out the get-go? I think it's going to be a seamless adjustment for some, Yuri, and I think it's going to take a little bit more time for others. I do have my doubts with Kat, with Mitch, getting up and down. I want those guys to stay healthy. But yeah, there are certain guys that are just going to absolutely eat in this system. I think Brunson, he's a baller. He'll fit well. I think JB, Macau, and Josh Hart, I think will fit in his system really well. Deuce McBride, Yabusele will fit really well. OG will kind of be somewhere in between, where I don't want OG killing himself, in an up and down system. um, 35 minutes plus. But again, if we can keep OG's minutes down, that could be the tonic, I think, to keep this thing rolling, fam. Um, you know, that's why, the biggest thing I'm pleased to hear, guys, is the 10-man. 9-man rotation, that might be too short for me. I know people might be saying, oh man, it's a championship year, you need to shorten that rotation, but I think it's a long season. It's a marathon. Yeah, I don't even care about some of these games, man. Some of them are throwaways, to be honest. Just get to the finish line healthy. Play guys no more than 30. In Buzzer Beater's case, I know you made that great quote this off season, man. Nobody should play more than 30. Now, in theory, that sounds awesome, but I don't know if that's realistic for Brunson and Cat. But for McCall, Hart, Mitch, Yabu, Deuce, and all that, yeah, definitely. Outside of Brunson and Cat, you could keep everybody's minutes below 30. Even OG. I think OG thrives when his legs are fresh. You see that lift. He gets he gets flowing with the three ball. And I think if you keep OG's minutes below 30, you definitely see the benefits offensively. I think with him, yeah, it's a marathon. It ain't a sprint. Definitely. SF says Bridges is going to eat the most. Yeah, I think Bridges will thrive in his system. You're 100% correct. I think up and down is what's going to suit him. Mr. Iron Man, he's conditioned, slender. I think he's built to play through pain as well. Now, Jason says, salute for the super chat contributions. Jason's been on fire tonight. Jason says, when we have had two young wings like Pacome and Diawara just learning and watching, those two should be off any trade discussion. They are legit young wings. And yeah, I agree. Pacome, Diawara, off base, out of bounds for any trade discussions for me. And especially Diawara will stay because of the salary situation. We need to skirt the second apron. With Dardier, it could be more financial related, Jason. But it would be a shame because we haven't seen enough, and some great quotes that came out today for y'all that haven't seen from The Athletic. James Edwards reporting that Pacome Dardier, according to sources, has had a really good summer and off season, and has, really, caught the attention of the Knicks front office, in terms of, and the coaching staff. So, hopefully, Pacome is a long time Knick, and he gets to show his skill set, his worth. I mean, you just look at the numbers. He's a 6'9", maybe 6'10", athletic wing that has shooting abilities, or shooting potential, and a really high defensive ceiling as well, fam. But yeah, last but not least, let's throw all these young guys, fam, in the two ways. So yeah, let's get those guys in there in the show us what you got category, fam. So this is it, guys. Appreciate you for the patience. Obviously, as I said, this is subjective, and we've discussed, debated. Things can change as the season goes along, but yeah, this is just my personal opinion. Every Nick has a role to play. The importance of that role will be determined as the season plays out. But this is as a preview, and I think there's some spots that could be, more debated. Like Brogdon could be higher up. Clarkson could be lower down. OG or Hart could be higher up. Even Mitch could be higher up, fam. Buzzer asks, what are you most looking forward to tomorrow? I'm looking forward to seeing the system, man. Mike Brown's new system. His rotation patterns in game one, I don't think are going to tell us everything we need to see. I do think there'll be some garbage time, and obviously some extended mop-up duty. But with with the first look, fam, it's just to see, okay, like, yeah, how is the offense structured? Um, you know, Jalen Brunson's role with Mikal Bridges, OG, and obviously getting those threes up, fam. Mike Brown said that he wants to try to get up 40 threes per game, 40 plus threes per game. So that'd be big time if we do. And I know, yeah, you want to see the faster paced offense, no doubt about it. I feel you on that because look at all the guards we have now. We have legit 4 point guard options. Brunson, Brogdon, Clarkson, Deuce, Kolek, 5. You bracket those as 1 and 2 ball handler guards. We have the depth to run. How are the big guys are going to keep up though? That's my biggest question with OG Mitch and Carl Anthony Towns. So it's funny, we will reflect and we'll look back, right, on this tier list as we go, right? But we had some major free agent news today. Quentin Grimes has taken the qualifying offer now. It was trending that way. He was wanting 25 plus, according to reports. Philadelphia was way below that. So in the end, what has Quentin Grimes done? He's bet on himself. Now he's taken that bet, a 1-year deal, 8.7 million, and I think it's a smart bet because Quentin Grimes should see a major role for Philly, fam. What we looked at their depth chart rotation, right? Quentin Grimes should see major opportunities. I mean, look at their bench, man. It's barren with McCain out, Gordon, the corpse of Eric Gordon, Justin Edwards, Trendon Watford, and Adem Bona, right? We know Paul George's health is suspect, and we know Joel Embiid is also suspect with health. VJ Edgecombe is a rookie, right? I mean, if I'm a Philly fan, I'm banking on Quentin Grimes to play 25 plus minutes. He's going to play a major role. And so, yeah, it's a smart bet. They can't afford to not play him major minutes. And what is that going to mean? That's going to mean he's going to parlay that hopeful production into a big fat contract. So shout out to Quentin Grimes. Hopefully he gets that bag, and hopefully he ducks Philly. Paula says, I want to see that ball movement and backdoor cuts. Yeah, remember back in the day with the triangle with Kyle O'Quinn and Ron Baker hitting that backdoor cut? Let's see if Mike Brown features that. Look, I know some of y'all ain't a fan so much, but I want to see zone. Man, I'm that starved of seeing a different defense. Thibodeau was drop coverage, let the threes fly. I want to see us play some blitz, trap, and some zone as well. Buzzer says Philly had no choice. Yeah, they're skint right now because they can't afford, Yabu. They can't afford to really pay Grimes either, right? But that's what they get for overpaying for PG. Um, Bob says that 10 a quarter, so that's maybe 25 shots a quarter, or 10 to 12 threes up, a 13 to 15 are twos. Just saying that's crazy, but it will give a better average in scoring. Yeah, it's going to be tough to do. I think they're definitely going to be able to do it if they play faster, Bob, get more possessions. But if they don't increase that speed, they're not getting those 43s up. There's no doubt about it, fam. I'd settle for 30 right now. I don't know what we averaged last season, but I'd probably settle for 30, 35 if they're quality threes. I'm still a little bit old school too. Don't forget the two. We got Midi Macau. We got Pacome Dardier who could get to his spots. JB's a killer in the pull up. Um, Cat, Mitch, get some buckets down low, keep the defense honest, right? I don't want to be one of those just 3 point shooting teams all day, every day, like Boston. That didn't work out for them. I think you need to be versatile. Deuce is a great mid-range pull-up as well. Um, Hart gets most of his points, in the 2 point range, at the basket. He's not a 3 point shooter. I'm pretty sure Jordan Clarkson can eat in the mid range as well. Now Yabu, I want him to be spacing it out, pulling the bigs out. Um, and yeah, like Optimus says, basically zone it just sprinkle things in as a different look. It can throw teams off their rhythm. You see. So my whole emphasis is, guys, when you continue to give the same steady diet, what ends up happening? Your body becomes immune, right? You're used to it. If you give the offense the same defensive look every single time, what's going to happen? They're going to get used to it. They're going to figure it out. They're going to be able to penetrate. They're going to be able to game plan and scheme. But what you can't game plan and scheme for is a healthy mix of like, man, is this possession going to go zone? Are they going to trap Tyrese Maxey or Tyrese Halliburton? Another time they might be switching. OG switches, Cat hedges. It can really throw teams off their rhythm, and you just see teams just going like look like that deer in the headlights sometimes. And you got to give respect to point guards. They know what they're doing. Trey Young, haven't seen, he's seen every defensive coverage. But if you mix it up, it could frustrate him. Tyrese, if he's cooking you, you need to get the ball out of his hands. Not drop back and let him dictate. It's to stop the other team from dictating terms. That's the thing. You want terms dictated from your end and not the other team. Uh, yeah, Buzzer says, yeah, I want to see some of that junk D. Yep, junk it up, fam. Some hard fouls thrown in. Um, Johnny says, CT, does Brown's system of play faster, shoot more threes, suit Deuce or Hart's game? I think it's going to suit Deuce. I think it's going to suit Deuce more than Hart. We all know Hart's Achilles, fam, is turnovers at times. Now, if Hart's locked in with less minutes, less wear and tear, I think Hart is obviously a weapon in transition. When he grabs the rebound and he goes, but he's usually quite tunnel vision. I think the floor spacing per se is going to help Deuce a bit more, because if he can run the channels and push the break, or someone's pushing the break, Deuce can run to the corners and be a legit threat. Whereas I think Hart's position on the floor needs to be more on ball. So look, both can thrive, I think, but Deuce will thrive a bit more because he can be on ball, off ball, and be a 3 point. He can be a 3 point shooting threat. Fam. I think where Hart's value could be on the bench unit under Mike Brown could be more on the ball and just be that release as a ball handler. Fam. As he goes and he grabs it and he runs the break. Yeah, Paula says that Hart's not a shooter. Now Bob says, CT, I feel threes ain't our priority. It should be defensive rebounds, meaning our average should be 2 defensive rebounds to 1 offense. That helps the defense when we take the 2 chances for scoring from other. Yeah, I think, definitely getting stops did fuel our offense last season. When we weren't getting stops and we were picking the ball out of the basket, man, and the other team could get back, our half court was a grind, man, and that's where Brunson really bailed us out a lot. And so, yeah, you're definitely right about, our defensive rebounds and getting those stops. What I like about focusing on what we're doing with the open space and pushing the break is that everyone should feel comfortable touching the ball. Sometimes last year we went maybe 6, 7, 8 possessions and someone didn't touch the ball, or as much as they should, and that can disrupt your rhythm. Just touching the basketball, even if it's running and gunning, hockey assisting, rebounding, whatever. You need to touch the rock, right? Every time you see someone shoot a free throw, you see guys go up to the ref and they grab the basketball because they just want to touch it. Everyone just want to touch that energy right now. And so we're moving the rock. People are going to be more, they're going to be more locked in when everyone's just touching the basketball, grabbing and going, right? Last time it was like, okay, Brunson would wait under the bucket. He literally would not advance until someone gave him the basketball. It's like sometimes you just want them to go, just get up the floor, man, because the defense is starting to get set. And it's like, that's Tibbs's offense, man. It was very point guard centric. It's like, get it to the point guard, everyone, fit around him. Whereas right now, they just need to learn to fit around each other. Everyone brings a different skill set. Like Mitch is a rim runner lob threat. We need to use that as a threat, and feed him a couple of times, right? The defense will ignore him, right? The defense ignored Hart and they ignored Mitch because guess what? Every time they got the ball, they weren't a threat. If they can get in positions and you can give them the ball when they're a threat, well, the defense will start to really pay attention. The defense will start to pay attention, man. That's why I hated that Tibbs didn't do pick and roll enough. But every time we did run a pick and roll, guess what? The big man never got the ball. He would set a screen and then, the guard would carry on and drive, dish it back out, whatever. But yeah, a couple of the times you found Mitch. RJ Barrett used to find Mitch on the lobs. Kolek, shout out to him. He finds the big men on the lob occasionally. Hart occasionally feeds the big man. But, that's something that Brunson didn't do much of, in terms of on the pick. So yeah, we'll see how that all plays out, fam. But like I said, we will be live tomorrow, fam. Prime time, 6 p.m., 5 to 6 p.m. We'll chop it up post-game, right? Not right after the game because it's a noon tip and it's a funky hour for the locals. But obviously in Abu Dhabi, fam, it's just all about getting in that first game, right? Get your feet wet and get set for a ride, fam, that we'll never forget. This season, it's going to be buzzing. You guys are on the money with this one. We mean business. And tomorrow, man, preseason starts. And what a season it's shaping up to be with the squad, the depth. As we end our poll tonight, Knicks will win the chip this year because, number one, coming in, we have the depth now at 57%. But option 2 is close to 3 and 4. Continuity, number 2, the team looks hungry at 19%. 14%, Tibbs is gone, Mike Brown is here. And last but not least, 10% say the East is bad. So that's going to be big time for the Knicks. All of those reasons will be true if the Knicks can win that championship this year, man. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Replay Squad. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I will see you tomorrow when it's that time, man. It's game time. Peace.